Most side hustles promoted online today are not designed to make you wealthy. They are designed to keep you busy. In 2026, the gap between working hard and building leverage has never been wider. If you are watching this, you likely have a full-time job, maybe 5 to 12 hours of free time a week, and a healthy skepticism of anyone promising passive income while you sleep. You do not need another list of 50 random ideas. You need a reality filter. You need to understand why two people can put in the same 10 hours a week, yet one sees their income plateau while the other builds something that compounds. The difference is not effort. It is the type of leverage they are using. Let's be direct about your situation. If you work a full-time job, your biggest enemy is not a lack of ideas. It is a lack of bandwidth. When you get home, your decision-making energy is already depleted. Most advice ignores this. Second, the instruction to simply grind harder skips the part where grinding without leverage is just a second job with worse benefits. A second job trades time for money. A strategic side hustle trades time for systems. If your extra income resets to zero the moment you stop working, you do not have a side hustle with growth potential. You have a freelance gig. There is nothing wrong with that for generating quick cash, but it will not lead to expansion on its own. You do not need more hustle ideas. In those, you need to understand which ones scale and which ones stall. Why leverage type matters more than industry. Most people categorize side hustles by industry. They say they want to get into AI or e-commerce or content creation. Strategic earners categorize by leverage type. That single shift in framing changes everything about how you evaluate an opportunity. There are 5 leverage types worth understanding. Skill leverage is your ability to do something that most people cannot, and to charge more for it as that ability compounds over time. Platform leverage is using established marketplaces or algorithms to reach customers without building your own distribution from scratch. Automation leverage is using software and systems to do the work that would otherwise consume your available hours. Asset leverage is building something once, a digital product, a content library, a niche website that continues generating returns without proportional effort. Capital leverage is using money to fund growth through paid traffic, inventory, or reinvestment. Most beginners start with none of these clearly in mind. They pick a hustle based on what seems accessible or what someone else is promoting. The leverage framework gives you a way to evaluate any opportunity before you commit time to it. Tier 1. Quick cash. Tier 1 is where most people start, and unfortunately, where most people stay. This includes gig work, microtasks, nains, and basic administrative freelancing. The barrier to entry is almost non-existent. If you have a car or a laptop, you can start quickly. Setup difficulty is very low, skill requirement is minimal, and startup cost is near zero. Income potential is real but directly capped by your available hours. In 2026, Tier 1 is hyper-competitive. Because anyone can do it, the platforms hold all the power. They control the rates, and they control your access to customers. And I use Tier 1 for one specific purpose: generating immediate liquidity to fund a Tier 2 or Tier 3 project. Do not mistake activity for progress here. Income grows where leverage exists, and Tier 1 has very little of it. Tier 2. Skill-based. Income Tier 2 is where side hustles become professional. This includes specialized consulting, copywriting, design, technical writing, automation services for small businesses, and similar high-value service work. Here, you are not competing with everyone, and you are competing with people who have your specific skill set. And that field narrows significantly as the skill requirement rises. Setup requires a few weeks of focused development and a minimal portfolio. Time to first income is typically somewhere between 30 and 90 days, depending on how quickly you can position clearly and reach the right clients. The income range varies based on skill level and how effectively you acquire clients. But the ceiling is meaningfully higher than Tier 1, and it rises as your work improves. The leverage here is skill compounding. The better you get, the more you can charge for the same hour of work. Two people can offer the same service, but the one who uses automation tools to handle client acquisition, reporting, and administrative friction operates more efficiently. That is the difference between hustling and operating. The hidden difficulty in Tier 2 is not building the skill. It is consistently finding people willing to pay for it. Any honest evaluation of a Tier 2 hustle needs a realistic answer to the question of how you will reach clients, not just how you will serve them. Tier 3. Asset and platform leverage. Tier 3 is the long game. This includes content channels, digital product ecosystems, affiliate websites, and newsletter audiences. The premise is that you invest significant effort up front into building something that can generate returns repeatedly and without proportional ongoing input. That premise is real. It is also slower and more uncertain than most people are prepared for. Startup cost is low to moderate. Time to meaningful income is typically measured in months to years, not weeks. The uncertainty is high. Not every Tier 3 project reaches the point where the leverage actually kicks in. Many do not. Most people quit Tier 3 because they expect Tier 1 results. They want a return on work done this week, this month. But leverage does not work that way. It requires an upfront investment of effort that pays out later unevenly and without a guaranteed timeline. The most scalable side hustles usually feel slow in the beginning. That is not a warning sign. It is how compounding actually works. The hidden costs. Most videos skip. By this point in most side hustle videos, the framing is still optimistic. Here is what gets left out. Platform dependency is a real risk. If your entire income relies on one algorithm, a freelance marketplace, a social platform, a search engine, you do not own a business. You are operating on someone else's infrastructure, subject to their policy changes and ranking decisions. That is manageable as part of a broader strategy. It is fragile as a foundation. Saturation is real but usually misdiagnosed. Most categories are not saturated at the high-skill, clearly positioned end. They are congested at the low differentiation end. Thus, the problem is rarely too many people offering the service. It is too many people offering it without a meaningful reason to be chosen. Burnout risk is higher in Tier 1 than most people expect because the income-to-effort ratio never improves. You trade time for money at the same rate indefinitely. That is sustainable for some people and unsustainable for others. Knowing which you are before you start saves significant time. One popular category collapses entirely under platform dependency once that platform changes its terms or algorithm. Building relationships and assets you own, an email list, a client base, a content library, is the only reliable hedge against that. How to choose? The selection framework comes down to 4 honest variables. First, what skills do you already have or are close to developing? Starting from existing capability shortens the timeline significantly. Second, now how many hours can you realistically commit each week? Not the ideal number, but the realistic one after a full workday. Third, what is your actual risk tolerance in terms of time invested before seeing income? Fourth, does the hustle match how you work? Some people operate better with clear deliverables and direct client relationships. Others build better through content and systems. Neither is wrong. The mismatch is the problem. If you have high urgency and limited capital, now start at Tier 1 and set a transition date. Use that cash to develop a Tier 2 skill. If you have moderate time and specific existing expertise, move directly to Tier 2. Your goal is to productize your service as clearly and quickly as possible. If you have patience and a stable income base, start building a Tier 3 asset alongside your other work. Treat the long timeline as a feature, not a flaw. The progression logic is straightforward. Use a platform to find your first clients. Use automation tools to reduce the friction of running your operation. Turn your workflows and knowledge into assets that eventually work independently of your direct time input. This is not a ladder you have to climb in a hurry. It is a ladder worth knowing exists. Income follows leverage, not urgency. If you are feeling overwhelmed by the volume of side hustle content and opportunity noise in 2026, stop looking for new ideas. Take the ideas you already have and ask a single question. Which of these allows me to eventually stop trading time for money at a one-to-one rate? Your full-time job provides stability. Your side hustle should provide optionality. Stability first, expansion second. Build one thing clearly. Build it with the right leverage type for your constraints. And give it the timeline that compounding actually requires. That is the only version of the truth about side hustles that holds up past the first 3 months.